The crackling campfire provided the only source of light as I sat alone in the deep wilderness, surrounded by towering trees and a vast expanse of darkness. The allure of solitude had drawn me here, seeking a break from the chaos of everyday life. Yet, as the night wore on, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was not truly alone. The rustling of leaves and distant hooting of owls created an eerie symphony that resonated through the silent night. I wrapped myself tighter in my sleeping bag, trying to ignore the chill creeping up my spine. In the distance, I spotted a flicker of movement, but when I turned my head, there was nothing there. As the hours passed, I struggled to sleep, my mind plagued by thoughts of being watched. The shadows cast by the dancing flames played tricks on my imagination, and every snap of a twig made my heart skip a beat. Unable to bear the oppressive atmosphere any longer, I decided to take a walk around my campsite. Perhaps, I thought, the movement I had seen earlier was just a harmless animal. But as I stepped out of the circle of light cast by the fire, an unsettling silence engulfed me. Even the nocturnal creatures seemed to have fallen quiet. A soft whisper reached my ears, so faint that it could have been the wind. But there was something sinister about it, something that made me uneasy. Ignoring the chill that ran down my spine, I strained to hear it again. My heart pounded in my chest as the whisper grew louder, accompanied by the sound of footsteps moving ever closer. I retreated back to the campfire, feeling a sense of vulnerability like never before. I reassured myself that it was all my imagination, that there was nothing truly lurking in the darkness. But deep down, I knew that I was not alone out here. Determined to regain my composure, I forced myself to focus on the beauty of the night sky. The stars sparkled like diamonds, offering a momentary respite from the suffocating darkness below. Yet even their radiant glow couldn't dispel the growing dread within me. As the night wore on, I decided to turn in for the night, hoping that sleep would grant me some escape from the eerie reality surrounding me. I crawled into my tent, zipping it up tightly, and lay on my sleeping bag, staring up at the canvas above. The forest outside seemed to have a life of its own, and the shadows danced ominously on the tent walls. I closed my eyes, trying to banish the feeling of being watched, but the whispers persisted. They were now more audible, filled with malice and intent. They seemed to speak in a language long forgotten, a language of darkness and despair. In the midst of this haunting chorus, I heard my name being called, each time louder and more insistent. "James. Come outside, James." My heart raced and I remained frozen in fear. The voice was unmistakably familiar, and yet it held an unnatural, sinister edge. It was as if someone was imitating the voice of a loved one, luring me out into the darkness. I fought the urge to respond, knowing that the wisest course of action was to stay hidden and safe within my tent. But as the night wore on, the whispers became more persuasive, promising me peace and understanding if I only stepped outside. I clamped my hands over my ears, trying to block out the voice, but it seemed to seep through every crevice of my being. The sound grew deafening, and I could feel my sanity slipping away. I had to escape, even if it meant facing whatever lurked outside. Summoning all my courage, I unzipped the tent and stepped into the night. The forest greeted me with an eerie stillness, and the shadows seemed to watch my every move. The fire had died down, leaving only faint embers that barely illuminated my surroundings. I scanned the woods, my heart pounding in my chest, but there was no sign of anyone or anything. The voice had fallen silent, leaving me standing alone in the cold, dark night. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows, stepping into the dying light of the campfire. It was a man, dressed in tattered clothes, his face obscured by a mass of unkempt hair. His eyes glowed with an unnatural light, fixing on me with an intensity that sent shivers down my spine. "Who are you? What do you want?" I stammered, trying to keep my voice steady. He didn't respond, but a sinister grin crept across his face. The fire cast flickering shadows on his features, making him appear even more sinister and menacing. Fear paralyzed me, and I felt as if I were trapped in a waking nightmare. In a sudden burst of terror, I turned and sprinted back towards my tent, my heart pounding in my ears. The woods around me seemed to twist and shift, creating an eerie maze that disoriented me further. As I reached my tent, I frantically zipped it up and huddled inside, praying for safety. But the whispers returned, louder and more malevolent than ever. They seemed to emanate from all around me, surrounding the tent like a sinister symphony of despair. I curled into a ball, clutching my ears, desperate to shut out the haunting voices. The tent walls seemed to close in, and the air grew heavy with a suffocating darkness. I was trapped in a nightmarish reality, and there was no escape. Time lost all meaning, and I couldn't tell if I'd been in that hellish tent for minutes or hours. Eventually, exhaustion overcame me, and I drifted into an uneasy sleep, tormented by nightmares and the ever-present whispers. When the morning sun finally broke through the canopy of trees, I awoke, drenched in sweat, and still trembling from the horrors of the night. The forest appeared serene and inviting, as if nothing had happened. Gathering my belongings, I hurriedly packed up my campsite and made my way back to civilization. The whispers had left an indelible mark on my mind, and I knew that I could never escape the haunting memories of that fateful night. To this day, I can't be sure if it was all a hallucination brought on by my isolation and fear, or if I had truly encountered something otherworldly in those woods. But one thing I am certain of, I will never camp alone again. The solitude that once called to me is now a curse, a reminder of the darkness that lies just beyond the safety of the campfire's light.